In 2026, humanity will begin its return journey toward the moon. For the first time in more than 50 years, a crewed spacecraft will sweep past the moon's far side. And for a sat, HAA, is deep space provides our areams that the Earth will drop out. No updates, no replies, just a crew alone in deep space. But Artemis II is not a landing mission. This is a crewed test flight. Its job is to prove that Orion can take humans far from Earth and bring them home safely. And the hardest part isn't the moon, it's the final minutes. Re-entry. Orion will hit the atmosphere at roughly 40,000 kilometers per hour. External heating can approach 2,800 degrees Celsius. A small error in the heat shield isn't a problem. It's the difference between coming back and not coming back. And this is what makes Artemis II even more intense. After Artemis I, NASA found signs of unexpected behavior in the heat shield. So Artemis II has to validate the fix with people sitting right behind that shield. Right now, I'm going to walk you through the full Artemis II timeline from the launch pad to Earth orbit around the moon's far side and all the way to a safe return. Artemis I flew successfully in 2022. Orion spent about 25 days in space, traveling more than 1.4 million miles. It proved the hardware worked, and the basic trajectory was solid. But Artemis II is the real test. It's the first time Orion carries humans, and once you put people on board, the question is no longer, can it fly? It becomes, how safe is safe enough? This is also where many people get it wrong. Artemis II does not land on the moon. It's a test flight meant to validate life support, operational procedures, and how a crew handles real deep space conditions, far beyond Earth. And there's one line I want you to hold on to until the end of this video. In space, going far isn't the hardest part. Coming back safely is. To understand Artemis II, think of it as a 3-layer chain into deep space. The rocket, the Interim Propulsion Stage, and Orion, where 4 humans will live and work together. Now the stack, SLS, ICPS, and Orion. First is SLS, 2 solid rocket boosters on the sides, and an orange core stage in the middle. It looks like the Space Shuttle era, but its job is different. It has one purpose: push Orion out of low Earth orbit and into deep space. On Artemis II's boosters, you'll also see the America 250 logo. It marks the United States' 250th anniversary. It's symbolic, but it's also a reminder. This is the first crewed flight of this system. Above SLS sits the Interim Cryogenic Propulsion Stage. Its role isn't just power, it's precision. It has to place Orion on the exact trajectory, correct speed, correct direction, correct timing. In spaceflight, being off by a few degrees isn't close. It can become a serious miss. At the top is Orion, the main character of the mission, and the only part that returns to Earth. Orion has 3 major elements. The European service module underneath, providing power and propulsion. The crew module in the middle, named Integrity for Artemis II, and the launch abort system on top, ready to pull the capsule away if anything goes wrong in the first moments of flight. Orion looks like Apollo, but it's a modern machine. Better living space. Full life support for a multi-day mission. Systems designed for longer operations. There's also a detail that sounds ordinary but matters a lot. Daily life and hygiene and microgravity. Orion is still tight. Privacy is still limited. But it reduces the kind of small problems that can quietly degrade performance across an entire crew. And this is why NASA obsesses over simulation. Orion contains over 355,000 parts. At that scale, failure isn't a question of if, it's when and where. So the training philosophy is what if. Engineers inject failures on purpose, single faults and cascading faults, until the crew's response becomes muscle memory. Now, launch day, the point of no return. Once the 2 solid boosters ignite, there's almost no undo button. About 8 hours before liftoff, the crew begins final preparations, medical checks, suit up, family goodbyes, then the ride out to the pad. They take the elevator up the tower and step into Integrity. When the hatch closes, That's the moment they separate from Earth, at least psychologically. Countdown hits 0. The 4 RS-25 engines light first. Seconds later, the 2 SRBs ignite. That sound and acceleration is the clearest message possible. From this instant on, this is no longer simulation. SLS clears the tower, then performs a roll and pitch maneuver to line up with the flight corridor. To reach orbit, you don't just go up, you have to build sideways speed. That's why the rocket tilts and accelerates downrange. Around 2 minutes in, the SRBs separate. The vehicle gets lighter and the core stage continues to push. Around 8 minutes after liftoff, the core stage runs out and separates. ICPS takes over, burning to place Orion into its planned Earth orbit. Now Earth orbit operations, proof of control. Once in orbit, the crew runs a full systems check. If everything looks good, Orion raises its orbit to roughly 70,000 kilometers, about 150 times the altitude of the ISS. From there, Earth shrinks into a blue sphere, small enough to cover with your hand through the window. Then, Orion separates from ICPS and performs proximity operations, a critical rehearsal for future rendezvous and docking. Orion turns to face ICPS. Then, the pilot manually flies in, from hundreds of meters away, down to just a few meters. In space, close enough. Still means no docking. And if you can't master this, the later Artemis missions don't happen. After those orbit tests comes one of the most important moments of the mission, TLI, Trans-Lunar Injection. That burn commits Orion onto a trajectory toward the moon. From here, the trip takes about 4 days. During those 4 days, the crew rehearses emergency procedures, and one test matters more than most: radiation beyond Earth's protective shield. Once you leave Earth's magnetosphere and pass beyond the Van Allen belts, protection drops dramatically. Orion includes a radiation shelter concept. Artemis II will test it in a realistic scenario where the crew can cluster water bags and supplies to increase shielding temporarily. Then Orion swings around the far side of the moon. When the moon blocks Earth, there's an expected loss of signal for about 45 minutes. No radio, no live updates, no one answering back. It's a very Apollo moment. Even with modern technology, there are still stretches where you simply have to pass through alone. After the flyby, Orion performs small trajectory corrections to lock in the return path to Earth. And about 4 days later comes the part that makes everyone hold their breath: the real exam. Before hitting the atmosphere, the crew module separates from the service module. From that moment on, there's no engine left for major course correction. The enormous energy of the mission has to be turned into heat on one shield with no second chances. Then Orion re-enters. Orion hits the atmosphere at around 40,000 kilometers per hour. External heating can approach roughly 2,760 degrees Celsius. There is no almost right here. The heat shield performs, or it fails. Artemis I returned safely, but post-flight inspection found sections of the ablative heat shield material that appeared cracked or flaked. Analysis suggested the skip re-entry profile didn't heat the material uniformly. Trapped gases could build internal pressure and contribute to cracking. In simple terms, uneven heating, gas buildup, and sections begin to separate. That's why NASA had to adjust the re-entry scenario. And that's why Artemis II matters so much. This time, they have to validate that solution with humans sitting directly behind the heat shield. If Orion clears re-entry, it deploys parachutes and splashes down in the Pacific Ocean. Only then is the mission truly complete. Before launch, NASA still has major ground milestones: rollout, integrated testing, and wet dress rehearsal, or WDR. WDR is the full launch countdown run, loading LOX and LH2, liquid oxygen, and liquid hydrogen, and rehearsing the process as if it were a real launch. Artemis I struggled here, especially with hydrogen leaks. So for Artemis II, NASA will be even more cautious. And with humans on board, multiple launch scrubs are normal. This isn't delay, this is human spaceflight. You launch only when risk has been reduced to an acceptable level. Now, why Artemis II matters? Artemis II is the final doorway before humans return to the lunar surface. It doesn't shock you with boots on the ground. It matters because it proves something harder. It can take humans far and bring them back safely. If you could only choose one moment to watch live, which would it be? Launch, the instant there's no turning back. The far side, 45 minutes of SILE. Re-entry, the heat shield's final exam. Drop your choice in the comments. Thanks for watching to the end. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.